Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
Here on Earth.
Good evening, afternoon, or morning, depending on your watching this show. There's no way to begin this show except at the beginning. And that is to say that this past Friday morning, December 9th, our UFO research community, experiencer community, experienced a collective jolt of both shock and sadness when it was learned that our dear friend and colleague, A.J. Gevaerd, had died in hospital of kidney failure. A.J. was the nation of Brazil's leading ufologist, but he was considerably more to many of us. He was an outstanding investigator and researcher, a commanding conference speaker, a publisher, a brilliant conference organizer, a major media presence in South and Central America, a gracious host, a father, a husband, a lover, a son, and a very good friend to so many of us. And not uncommon in our culture, when somebody we care about passes, one way or the other, we often find our way together to commune, to remember, to laugh, to cry, trade stories. And in this case, our little group with you joining us, hopefully to learn more about this extraordinary man, what he did while he was here, why we will remember him, why we love him. And I'm really honored to have a special group of friends on tonight, some for both hours, some for just the first or the second. But as of right this minute, let me just see who is standing by here with us. Right. We have Thiago Luis Ticcatti. He has been researching the UFO phenomena for more than 25 years, an interest he inherited from his late father, who was a pilot in the Brazilian Air Force. Thiago is co-author and columnist of Revista, UFO magazine, and columnist for UFO Truth magazine. Luis has published dozens of articles for UFO magazines and foreign publications. He is the author of 13 books and is currently president of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists, acronym CUB, and MUFON National Director in Brazil. Thiago holds a degree in business administration and an executive MBA from the Brazilian Institute of Capital Markets. He lives and works in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. This with his wife and two beautiful children, and they are beautiful children. Thiago is a special guest in that he was the one of us who was always closest to AJ. Kathleen Marden is an award-winning researcher, author, on-camera expert, hypnosis practitioner, and international conference presenter. She is widely considered one of the leading UFO contact researchers of our time. Since 1990, she has researched and experienced the perplexing nature of contact with non-human entities. She has worked on 3 comprehensive studies on nearly 5,000 experiencers and has 6 professionally published books. Kathleen is the recipient of the 2021 International UFO Congress Lifetime Achievement Award, and very well deserved it is. In 2003, MUFON publicly recognized Kathy for her outstanding contributions of advancing the scientific study of the UFO phenomena and demonstrating positive leadership. For 10 years, she served as MUFON's Director of Field Investigation Training and was MUFON's Director of Experiencer Research from 2011 until last year. MUFON honored Kathy with its 2012 Researcher of the Year Award. Beginning in 2012, she experienced life-changing events that radically altered her worldview and changed the course of her life's work. Prior to this, she had straddled the uneasy path between scientific materialism and paranormal studies. These profound events and their aftermath led to her spiritual awakening and transformation. Donald R. Schmitt is the former co-director of the J. Allen Hynek Center for UFO Studies in Chicago, where he served as Director of Special Investigations for 10 years. He was a special investigator for Dr. Hynek prior to that. A 7-time best-selling author, his first book, UFO Crash at Roswell, was made into the Golden Globe-nominated movie Roswell, and his book Witness to Roswell was #1 best-selling UFO book in the world for 2 straight years. Don is also the co-founder of the globally famous International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, New Mexico. And before I bring these guests on, no, there is no before. Luis, Don, Kathy, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. Welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Good to be with you, Peter, even under these somber circumstances. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. You know, Thiago and I were speaking earlier, and I was saying to him, just as sort of a reality check, it hit me this afternoon as I was doing the things we need to do to get a show like this on the road. AJ died 3 days ago. It just happened. And I think that's still catching up with some of us, depending on how close we were. And I couldn't help thinking, after my sister Helen died about 20 odd years ago, standing up in front of an assembled crowd of almost 200 people who had come to the remembrance, the wake that we had for her in New York City, and looking out at these folks and knowing how much some of them had loved her and what a great group it was, I found myself saying my first remarks essentially, with this crowd, if Helen were here, we could have a really good time. And if AJ were here, we'd have a really good time tonight on this show. We will do our best to carry on, but it's not a happy occasion. And my condolences, of course, like all of us, to AJ's family and to my best friend in Brazil, my brother in Brazil, because he was the closest, and our condolences to you, Thiago.
Thank you very much, Peter. Don.
I know because of domestic schedule tonight, your wife is away. The children are going to need things like food and baths, and you have a dog that's going to bite you and all that, that you will only be able to be with us for the first half hour or so. So let me turn it over to you to start in any way that you'd like.
Okay, thank you, Stephen, everybody. And it's an honor to be here to, to make a tribute to AJ. It's a really surprise for us. Since the accident he had, we got very concerned, but we had the hope that was just another accident that he had. But the thing is gonna start to get very, very difficult to him because of his health. And to lose AJ is like I said to Peter, like a hole in my soul, because AJ was the one who opened all the doors and the windows ufology for me. Because of him, now I met Susan, I met Don, I met Peter, and so many other ufologists and researchers and people involved in the ufology phenomena, UFO phenomena. And I was typing with send a message to his wife Jack, and I told her, I don't know. I wake up today hoping that it was just a nightmare, and AJ is gonna send me a message on WhatsApp saying, "Hello, TT, Thiago Ticcatti. Hello, TT. How are you? Let's do the second edition of your book, UFO Crash, UFO Typology." We are discussing about that, and he had a lot of plans. We should have 4 new UFO Congress next year in 2023. Well, these dreams is not canceled. These events, the UFO magazine is not gonna shut down. It's my goal. It's my task to keep the legacy of AJ alive. Every time that I have my speech in some UFO Congress, AJ tell to the audience, well, Thiago start as a translator to the article, to the magazine, and then he became a counselor of the magazine, and then a special counselor of the magazine, and now he's my co-editor in the magazine. I'm afraid that he's gonna take my place as editor of the UFO magazine. And I said, I will do that, AJ. But you're gonna be retired, enjoy your life, and I'm gonna be working for you. Well, this future came much sooner than I expect, and I hope.
Yeah. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to go to some photos that you were kind enough to send and give us a chance to take a look at them. They all speak for themselves wonderfully.
It was 2015, the UFO Contactees Conference in Porto Alegre, Rio Grande do Sul. Look at his face. Always the same face, smiling, always smiling.
He was such a people person, we all know. And
this one, 2013, I think Don was there.
Oh.
Don was there in 2013 or 2015, Don?
13.
Don was there. I think Nick Pope was there as well. This one is in Araçatuba. We are the only 2 speakers, and this was a roundup of questions. And he knew so much. He knew so much about everything. If you put AJ to discuss with an astronomer, he gonna give a lesson to him. Because he knew everything about UFO, space. He was a very intelligent. I don't know if you know, but AJ spoke very good in English. Spoke very good in English, but he never took lessons.
Oh.
He just got it from himself. He learned alone by himself. A very good English.
His English was, exactly. Jesus. The next picture here is this one.
Well, I just told you. Oh, Thiago is gonna take my place in a UFO magazine. It was in São Paulo.
It's great.
Oh, this one, I think it's 2016, 14. I don't remember, but always smiling, always smiling. This was, I think it was the event after the Daniela death. And I think it's 2016, right? He left us. Oh, this was in the Senate here in Brazil in June.
June, right.
Yeah.
This is, I was very fat. This was a UFO summit with a summit together with São Carlos and Eric von Däniken here in Brazil. It was the first time that my family, my son and my wife, my daughter was a little, they saw me. They was in an audience to see my speech. So it was very, very emotional. And AJ said, "Bring them. They must see you. They must see you how you do that."
If I may quickly just interject, Peter and Thiago.
Yeah.
So the one thing that has impressed me about AJ for as long as I've known him is that no one forged a link between the Brazilian government and their military more than anyone else. And if you consider, in
That's
contrast,
amazing.
who in America could actually say that they have forged a link with the U.S. government or the military on UFOs? Good luck. I mean, even when J. Allen Hynek actually was a consultant to the Air Force, he forged no links because it was their way or no way. But here was AJ, and that's exactly what he did. He led the way. And then he established the fact that there he was this past June, briefing both Thiago and AJ, briefing the Brazilian Senate on the very subject. So, we've lost just a tremendous ambassador. I can't emphasize that enough.
You remind me, there are very few people in our field, in the history of our field, who are qualified, charismatic, thorough, engaging, kind, but who have the wherewithal to do what Don's speaking about. And although they were very different people in very different circumstances, I'm thinking, especially the last few days, the person in the whole field in terms of energy, character, dynamism, getting stuff done, productions, conferences, publications, is the late, great Graham Birdsall in the UK.
Absolutely.
And I started to laugh when you were talking about, liaisoning with the Brazilian military, thinking not far from where Graham lived in Leeds is the legendary NSA listening post with all of the giant golf balls and things.
I've been there. Yes.
Yeah. If we've been to Leeds and we knew Graham, he took us on a ride so we could look down on it. And after we did, he just kept driving toward it. And the closer he got, the more playfully anxious I became until we pulled up in front of the facility.
Right. All those geodesic domes in the background. Right.
Two young men with very fully automatic weapons at the ready, with the passenger side door facing them, even though the bullets could go through me into him. Anyway, they came over to the car with very grim faces. They bent down. "Graham, how you doing? When's the next issue of UFO coming out? We love your magazine." And we didn't die. So
no. He was a friendly face that they knew was just part of the tour.
Even the toughest of us and the most resilient, with the greatest family support, can be laid low. And our lives can just spiral out of control because of a random thing that happens. And very shortly after I was in Brazil for the last conference that I attended, there was with Robert Salas, who will be joining us in the second hour, and Richard Dolan. Let's see, Michael Sallow is also the other American. A very short time after that, the dearest person, I think, in AJ's heart, his amazing daughter, Danny, was killed instantly in a head-on car crash with her fiance. And those of us who were there or have been there earlier had a chance to meet this remarkable, dynamic, wonderful young woman.
Beautiful young lady. Yes, she was.
And
yes, Danny was his left and right and hand and the left feet and the right feet. But AJ suffered a lot because of his loss. And
you never got over it, Thiago, did you?
No, never.
How do you?
Never.
How do you?
Never. And then understand him. It's impossible. I have two kids. I cannot imagine. Because it's the wrong way of the nature of life. The natural way is, well, we burn our fathers or our parents, not the opposite. The au contraire. So, in September, we had the UFO Congress in São Paulo, the 26th UFO Congress, National Brazilian UFO Congress in São Paulo, and I made my speech. And when I finished, AJ came to me and said, "Thiago, you are so much better. Your speech is amazing. You are speaking much better than ever." That was so important to me to listen, to hear that from him, because he was my idol. I watched several lectures of AJ, and I was wondering, wow, I wish to speak like him, because he need no paper, no PowerPoint, nothing, just speaking, and even just speaking without any kind of video or photo or image, nothing. The audience still were looking at him with curiosity, liking, enjoying what he was telling. So that was my goal. And when he came to me and said, "Well, you're much better. Your lecture was amazing." Well, I went to the moon and came back.
With this show, I'm doing several things at once sometimes. At this point, do you feel the conferences will continue, or you're going to take some time to kind of pull the group?
Yeah, I'm not gonna push Danielle or Jack, but we must go on. Of course, that we have to find another way, because I don't leave. I don't work in a ufology field. I haven't done the work. Ufology for me is a hobby, and it's a thing that I like to do, to research and stuff like that. But it's nothing that gives me money. And for AJ, he with his life, his profession. So we will try to keep it. The magazine we will keep publishing the magazine. We just have to figure out in which way, or like ebook or printed or I don't know, something like that. But a legacy of 13 years cannot just end like this. No, it's unfair. AJ spent more than 30 years of his life. 30 years just Revista UFO magazine. More than 30 years, since 1988. But before the UFO magazine, we had another magazine, and AJ was UFO before UFO magazine. So his legacy, his work, what he built, just cannot stop like this. And I hope to have help like you, like Cesar, like Don, that we must continue. We must continue the AJ legacy. I will never gonna be AJ, never, and I don't want to be, because he's eternal. He's in another level. but I want to keep to carry on his work.
We want you to do that too, very much. How are you doing for time, my friend?
Oh, 6 minutes. No, I'm cool.
Okay. Kathy, you visited Brazil more than once, correct?
No, I spoke at Iguazu Falls one time, and it was very memorable. I had such a great deal of respect and admiration for AJ, and of course he invited me to go to the conference, and he was very welcoming and gracious, and I used his Portuguese computer when I was there. I remember that I had a translator, so that there was a woman, and I think you have a photograph I sent of her. But
Yes.
The women were mostly sort of in charge of me and making sure that I was comfortable and knew what to do. I was there when Nick Redfern was speaking that year, and Gary Hazeltine from the UK was there. It was funny when you were talking about Menwith Hill. Charlie and I were there when I was over speaking at Gary Hazeltine's conference, and I happened to have a relative who actually worked there.
Oh,
too.
great.
It was a beautiful city.
Yes, it is.
And we spent a night or two in that city. So yeah, we had a great time in Brazil. I remember how dinner was going to be at about 8 o'clock, and in the United States, if you have dinner scheduled for 8, it's at 8 o'clock. And I remember how we chatted and socialized and had drinks until like 10, and then dinner came slowly. So it was about midnight when we were still having dinner. Kind of different from me, because I go to bed early at night
and dream of dinner.
But it was fun. It was a good experience to go there. The other conference that I was at with AJ, where in a foreign country, was actually in Puebla, Mexico. And this was the Proyecto Alien conference. And he was one of the speakers. Stanton was at that one with me. And I remember how the three of us got together for breakfast one morning and had quite a good chat. It was probably the best and longest conversation that I'd had with AJ before. I'd been an admirer of his for many years, dating back to my beginnings with the Mutual UFO Network. I joined in 1991, and occasionally MUFON would bring him up to speak at a conference, and because he was the national director for Brazil, and just a highly respected individual with the enormous amount of work that he contributed. And I'm so sorry over his passing at such a young age, too, only 60 years old. So yeah, that was kind of a shock to me.
Go through these pictures fairly quickly.
Yeah, the Brazil conference in Iguazu Falls.
Yes.
And
2015, 16, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that it was, I think, the year after AJ's daughter and her fiance were killed in the car crash.
Oh, boy.
And when we went in, the stage was just lined with flowers everywhere. It was incredible.
Oh, my gosh.
And so there was sort of a memorial for everyone who was gathering there in remembrance of her and the the work that she had done working with AJ. Just such a huge loss.
Yeah.
It was.
I did think that I met her one time at a conference in the United States, but I might be wrong on that.
This is Reggie.
Yes, and she was
Reggie and you.
my translator.
Reggie.
Excellent.
Regina.
Excellent.
Yes. And,
There he is.
Yes, and here we are. This is in Puebla, in Mexico. And,
Andrea Simongini.
Yes. I'm glad you're recognizing them because I couldn't pronounce the names if I tried. I was looking at my folder from the conference, and still I'm glad you're there to pronounce their names. And again from Puebla.
Let me see.
You can
This
see
all with what I don't know, Andrea Simongini, Robert Salas, Rodrigo Fuenzalida, and this guy is from Mexico, if I'm not wrong. AJ, Mama Simongini, and the other guy I don't know.
And John Alexander.
That's him, but with hat. I didn't recognize him with hat.
Yes. And there's AJ again getting an autograph.
Wow.
At that conference.
That
We had a wonderful time at that conference. They treated
Stanton
us very
Friedman.
well. You can see Stanton there too. Stanley Krippner, the famous psychologist, Dr. Stanley Krippner.
That was Daryl Sims, signed by AJ? Daryl Sims? No.
No, he wasn't there. That's not Daryl.
Whoa,
Bob Salas behind me.
Oh, Alexander. Now I can see him.
The lady in the front is Dr. Irma, and I don't know, I can't remember her last name, but she was the director of that institute that invited us all in to lecture. And it was a very nice, close thing. We had a big dinner that they had for all of us. And then they took us on a tour of the city. They kept us a couple of extra days.
Great.
And, we had a wonderful tour, and we all went out to lunch at a Mexican restaurant. Got to taste my first chicken mole. So
the real deal.
Good. It's very good. It's very good.
Yes. So, it was just a wonderful time. That's Dr. Krippner and Dr. Irma. They were giving out awards and sort of running the UFO conference.
Oh, it's amazing. And AJ loved it. He loved it to travel and presents Brazilian ufology to the world. He loved it. And sometimes he asks me, Thiago, can you go with me? Let's go together. Just invite me. Let's go. But we never go to outside of Brazil to do it together.
Don, you had a good amount of contact with AJ over the years, certainly more than I did, both here, Brazil, and abroad. You sent 2 pictures, but they more than make up for the small number by what they are and where they are.
Well, and this particular shot is also at one of the conferences, and you see sitting in the foreground to the left our late dear friend Stanton Friedman, and then you can see a younger looking Nick Pope to the right, and looking every bit a little boy, at least next to us. But I can't emphasize, and Thiago could certainly vouch for this, and I was having numerous conversations with AJ and via email through the last couple of years, and not only the trouble as far as with the Brazilian government and the high rate of inflation there that makes ours look like a Sunday school tuition. and trying to keep the magazine afloat, as well as still put on the conferences. And this took a tremendous toll on him physically. He was at his wits' end at times. And if not for his family and friends, I don't think that he would have survived this long. And I know when he was part of our 5-continent summit in Russia, and this was after we had laid the foundation in China months earlier. And I immediately recommended AJ for representing Brazil at that time. And so he not only represented Brazil, but he represented South America in many respects. And here we are pictured with the caption, with the Chinese delegation, as well as once again, Gary Heseltine. But where we sat down, and it was 9 countries, and we essentially put together what today is known as the International Coalition of Extraterrestrial Research, of which AJ was our Brazilian representative and Thiago was his deputy. And now with the passing of AJ, Thiago has already been notified that he will fill that position. And it'll be up to him to come up with a nominated deputy over the next few months, if possible. But this would lead to the hearings before the Brazilian Senate in June. And keeping in mind that AJ was also part of the citizens hearing here in the States in 2013 in Washington. Again, well representing not only ufology from South America, specifically Brazil, but also the witnesses. He had a tremendous presentation that he put on before these retired Congress people and Senator Mike Gravel. And I know they were all impressed.
Yes.
And especially as we demonstrated collectively as a whole, that this wasn't just an American phenomenon, that this was global. And that AJ, again, presented as far as the best effort that anyone could have before officials in Washington, in realizing that, my God, this is a phenomenon that is international in its scope. And we need to start listening to these civilian investigators because they're the keepers at the gate. They're the ones that are serving as the watchdog. The grand deceivers at the Pentagon, for example, have enlisted other governments throughout the world to cooperate in this cover-up, in this deception. And AJ was constantly leading the charge and not only exposing them in Brazil, but also here in the States, that this was a collective effort in making sure that the truth did not get out. And it's a tremendous loss in that, and I fully expect Thiago will step to the fore. He will assume that mantle, but they are big shoes to fill. And I think, Peter, you put it very aptly in that he shouldn't try to copy AJ. He should, establish his own personality, his own, as far as objective, as far as what he wants to accomplish. And using AJ as a principal role model, as a hero that we all, take great sadness in mourning his passing, but nonetheless that we need to commit ourselves all the more to finish what AJ started.
Yeah. Well, amen to that. It strikes me that here we are, the 4 of us, involved in this work, passionately so, starting out with our own curiosities, obsessions, questions, priorities, and over time, your priorities shift to some degree. I remember when I first got involved, my passions were like AJ, like you, I think. Who are they? Where do they come from? What do they want? How do they get here? What goes on in abductions? What about their machines? What do they have for breakfast? And of course, we're talking about some segment of theirs. And I realized some years ago that my priorities had gently shifted in a way that caught me off guard, and not in a bad way, which was hitting that point where you realize, I remember when those people who were senior to me when I started out are gone or almost all gone now, and they didn't get the answers to the questions they necessarily were looking for. Am I okay about not having those answers too, if that's the way it is when I go through the door into whatever happens next? And I thought, yeah, I'm fine about it. Paraphrasing Martin Luther King, it's not the destination, it's the ride. And we are on one. And part of that ride, when things are really good, is realizing you are in a circle of extraordinary acquaintances, wonderful friends, having a great time in a place that you've never been, learning more about the world, about cultures, about what makes individual people tick, and you're the more for it. And I don't know how many people, it certainly has to be thousands and thousands of people that AJ had that direct impact on. I'm not even talking about television, magazines, bringing them to this remarkable series of conferences year after year after year, hundreds at a time, not to mention us from, we're Americans, but people from all over the world spoke at those conferences. And AJ himself, Danny, his daughter, the volunteers they couldn't have been kinder. We all had a great time. I learned more, a humbling amount in a week, less than a week, about Brazilian culture that I didn't know, and would go back there in a second. I felt very welcome. And just a reminder, this is a terrible way to make a living. Keep your day job, Luis, Thiago. But oh my God, the perks on the job sometime are as good as they get. And you know what? AJ was one of those perks.
Good way to put it, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We all got to meet someone as far as with that passion, that zest for life, such as an AJ. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, he had that passion, and he was the glue to put everybody together.
Yeah.
It's a power. I think if he was a superhero, his power was the glue. Because he could put everybody together. And I remember when we had you here in Brazil, Gary, Kathleen, Don, Peter, and he asked to his closer friend like me and other friends, Thiago, stick on Peter, go to lunch with him, take breakfast with him, make him comfortable here in Brazil. Yeah. And we did that.
100%.
Just because of him. He asked us to do that, and we did.
Yeah.
Thiago took me out to dinner, but he stuck me with the bill. So No, I'm kidding.
We're going to say,
dollar is stronger than hell. So
you could, if that had been the case, you could settle it in the afterlife. I'm sure it would have been just fine.
Right. Checks in the mail. Right.
I'm thinking, visualizing the banquet. And of course, many conferences have banquets. Some of them, it's the joie de vivre and the fun of being with friends, colleagues, new friends, fans, whatever. And the food is not so good. And I'm being kind there. It has nothing to do with UFOs. It's part of a conference thing sometimes, and planned dinners at establishments. The food was great.
It was a banquet. It was a banquet. Yes.
But my main memory, besides the food was great, was he worked that place like a good politician. He was all over. hand on the back, how are you doing? Watching him and the fun that we all know when you've set something in motion that's going well and people are enjoying themselves. And you have that moment of, I had a lot to do with this happening right now. And you know what? I feel great. And that's one of the ways I love to remember him.
Yes, agreed.
Because as sometimes happens in live radio, guests do not appear when they're supposed to. We still have, 10 glorious minutes together. And Thiago, I'm delighted. Your children are not screaming or perishing in the next room or anything?
No, they're killing. They're killing each themselves. There's no problem. I saw one passing with the knife, other with the axe. There's no problem.
Good, like American children. Nice.
That sounds like my kids.
Good.
If I can hear them, it's okay.
I was going to say, if we hear the shrieks and see blood, you can cut away and, you don't have to even say goodbye. We will understand. Otherwise, can you tell us how you met AJ?
Oh, yeah. Well, I began like a translator to the UFO magazine in 1997. And we had here in Brazil the first World UFO Forum in 1997. And I met AJ there because I went there to attend. And I was young, 20 years old, 21 years old. And AJ, when I saw him, I shake. I was shaking because, whoa, he is AJ Gevaerd, the owner of the magazine I translate for.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then in 1999, I had vacations and I went to São Paulo to visit my grandmother. And I don't remember how and or why. I spent 7 days of this vacation in Campo Grande at AJ's house. He lived in Campo Grande. Now he was living in Curitiba, and he was living in the past. He was living in Campo Grande. AJ went to airport to pick me up and drove me to his house. I slept for a week at his house together in a room with Daniel. Daniel was a little boy. And I worked at UFO magazine office for a week. I was not working. I was having fun.
Candy store. Yeah.
I was there and I saw AJ giving interviews in English and Spanish and Portuguese and type in producing the UFO magazine. And from there, our friendship just grew up. And I always told AJ, come to my house. Now it's my time to offer you my house. And I will go, but I don't like Brasilia because the politicians, the politic and the people in Brazil. AJ, come on, my house. There's no political there. Food and wine and simple. You can relax. But we don't have time to do that. He came several times to Brasilia, but he stayed at the hotel because he came with Jack and Daniel and the São Carlos or Eric von Däniken, so he could not leave them at the hotel when he come to my house. But since that day that I went to his house, spent 7 days a week there, we got very, very close, very, very close. And almost every day I send a message to him and send a message to me. And Thiago, what are you planning? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna write? Let's publish a second edition of your book. Well, okay, man. Whatever you decide, I do it. No problem. I'll follow you.
Not a bad way to meet.
No, was not. And AJ was an amazing cooker.
No. Well,
Yes.
all right.
Yes, he was. He was quite the
He made
connoisseur.
Yes.
I don't know how to call it in English.
Chef.
Chef here, right? Chef, and fish. They both. We call him Brazil costela, the chef,
Ribs.
and fish, water, sweet water fish.
I'm getting hungry.
And he was a very good cooker, amazing cooker.
That I'm very happy to hear that. I love to cook, and I think it is a great activity for men to be involved in. Don.
Yes, and Peter, I think everyone here, as well as our colleagues in the States and elsewhere, would make the same offer to Thiago, whatever we can do to help you continue the magazine.
Yes.
Because the magazine served as the basis for the conference, for the convention.
Yeah.
Very good point.
We can provide you with material, with articles.
Yeah.
So you know who to come to. You know who you can rely on. So
Just put
don't
out.
hesitate.
Thank you, Don. That's a really important suggestion, especially as print magazines, as we all know, are kind of now part of the past. But the places where they're hanging on.
287 issues. We cannot stop. Wow. His goal, AJ goals was let's reach 300 editions. Wow, let's do it. We're still in the March, so I'm talking to Danielle and Jack. It's my objective to keep the magazine, but I take this end of this 2022 to think about it. I will be in New Zealand, closer to Kathleen. I will be there at New Zealand to vacation, and will give me time to think, to Danielle think, to Jack think what you're gonna do. But it's pretty sure that we will keep the magazine. There's no other way. There's not other way.
The other thing about visiting and speaking at the conference, flying in to a foreign country is one thing, to a foreign culture is another. But I traveled down with my dear friend and relative neighbor here, who also spoke that year, Richard Dolan. Maybe you've heard of him. He is also, And we arrived, went to sleep, got up, and realized it was Thanksgiving. And for some reason, this is not being celebrated. No turkeys, nothing, no. And we went to, at AJ's suggestion, maybe it was yours, right next to our little hotel, a kind of restaurant that is not uncommon in Brazil, a buffet. And although I knew that Brazil is a combination of cultures and people, this was something else again. There are Richard and I perusing this display of food, and there is, of course, Brazilian food, stuff we associate with South and Central American, Mesoamerican cultures, but German food, Italian food, American food, Japanese food. I did not know that about 10% of all Brazilians are of Japanese extraction or background. And unlike American conferences, and I think also it is cultural, the colors of the skin of everybody in that room was from blackest black to whitest white, with every color in between, about equal men and women, about equal young people and what we euphemistically call older people. And seeing these families at the buffet they look Japanese and Italian and South American, for lack of a better word. And I loved it. And it was the most unique Thanksgiving dinner I ever had.
Yeah, here in Brazil, we have this mix of cultures. Do you know that outside of Japan, the place that we have more Japanese is here in Brazil? We have millions of Japanese here in Brazil.
Wow.
We have in São Paulo a neighborhood called Consolação. I think it's Consolação. there is a place with only Japanese or descendants from Japan, and we can live together, no problem. And if you go a buffet, you can reach Arabic food, Italian food like pizza and sushi and sashimi and barbecue and hamburger and French fries and rice, everything you can eat.
And
A lot
on
of
that,
chocolate. I remember a lot of chocolate.
if you're just tuning in right now, this is actually not a culinary show. We are about to go to break. We are here
Peter,
honoring,
like a new galloping gourmet, right? I know.
remembering our dear friend AJ Gevaerd with 3 dear friends. We'll be back in 4 minutes with these guests and some others.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Are we alone in the universe? The most important question facing humanity is on the verge of being settled once and for all. The Mutual UFO Network has been at the forefront of this journey for nearly 50 years. Our members worldwide are dedicated to the research, documentation, and awareness that will shape the future of humanity. Won't you join us?
It's not just a donation.
It's a warm blanket.
It's a bottle of clean water.
It's a roof and a bed.
It's knowing someone cares.
It's feeling safe.
It's a today that's better than yesterday.
Every dollar you can spare helps so much more than you can imagine. Please, donate now to help people affected by Hurricane Ian. Your support is urgently needed.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
And we are back, this special episode of Meanwhile Here on Earth with Thiago Ticcatti. No, we have lost him. The children have won the battle. And
yes, one of them just called Peter and they were lighting the house on fire. So I guess he had a
awkward moment. I'm
We'll
glad
deal
we
with
didn't
that.
get to see any of the ugliness. We are waiting for several guests, but joining Don and I right now is a good friend from the conference circuit, to put it mildly, and somebody who I wanted to be on the show also because he had knew AJ in a way that we didn't. Carlo Patrick has been an audiovisual director, crew member, and production coordinator for UFO events since 1993, when the third annual International UFO Congress was held at the Showboat Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Carlo has worked with the Congress every year since then, as well as many MUFON symposia throughout the U.S., also Star Wars conferences in Laughlin, and the Laughlin UFO megacons. Over the years, he has come to work with hundreds of presenters as they've shared UFO stories, experiences, and findings with their audiences. Carlo grew up in Wisconsin during the great UFO flap of the 60s and was an avid follower of the UFO. Freudian slips all over the place, the U.S. space program. He was also a fan, not surprisingly, like so many of us, of science fiction movies like 2001 and shows like Twilight Zone and Star Trek, all of which helped to shape his lifelong interest in UFOs. Carlo has also had a long career in the entertainment industry as a manager and marketing communications and PR director, for a large movie theater operator. An accomplished photographer, which I will certainly attest to, and writer, Carlo has had articles published in UFO Magazine and American Screenwriter magazines, as well as other theater industry and trade publications. Carlo, join us. Wonderful
Good evening, Peter.
You on the show.
Hey, Carlo, good to see you.
Good to see you, Don. Hope all's well in Wisconsin. Staying
We
warm.
missed you in Wisconsin, but you don't miss the snow, I bet.
No, I don't. Not at all.
Yeah, you could have commiserated with Kathy, where she's still on the show now. It's great to see you, my friend.
Absolutely.
You as well, both of you.
Thank
all
you.
is well with you?
All is going very well.
Great.
And happy Hanukkah, Peter.
Obviously, you're here to join us in remembering a friend and a colleague. Do you remember the first time that you worked an event that AJ spoke at, or your first impressions of him as a person and presenter?
I don't remember the exact year. If it was one of the very first conferences that I worked at that I first met AJ, and we hit it off very well. I remember going to dinner with him after his presentation, and we were several other people with us, and we were in a restaurant in the casino, and AJ was telling me how this American food wasn't very good compared to what he enjoyed in Brazil. He told me that the spaghetti sauce was way too sweet and that he liked to eat meat. That was his diet. He didn't like vegetables and all that other stuff that went along with it. He liked to eat meat. So, learning afterwards about Brazilian steakhouses, I can understand why.
And we're going to hold that thought for a moment because we are being joined by another dear friend and about to be joined by another. Yvonne Smith is the author of Chosen, Recollections of UFO Abductions through Hypnotherapy, Coronado, the President, The Secret Service and Alien Abductions, and her latest book, Chosen, From the Alien Hybrid Program to the Fate of the Planet. Yvonne graduated from the California Hypnosis Motivational Institute in 1991 as a certified hypnotherapist. During her years of work with post-traumatic stress disorder victims, she observed through hypnotherapy what many of her subjects described as a pattern of alien abductions or other close encounters. Founding Close Encounter Resource Organization in 1992 as a result, which continues to conduct monthly meetings. In addition to maintaining personal contact with her clients, she has traveled extensively, lectured at Massachusetts Institute of Technology and other American universities and conferences, as well as several international conferences. Throughout the 90s, she traveled extensively with her abduction research colleagues Bud Hopkins, Dr. David Jacobs, John Carpenter, Master of Social Work, and the late, great Dr. John Mack as a participant in lecture series. Her television and radio podcast appearances are too numerous to mention. And let me just see here. Yvonne Smith, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth.
Oh, hi. Hi. Oh, thank you so much for having me on. And hi, everybody.
Hi.
Carlo, Yvonne.
Evening, Yvonne. How are you? Good.
Well, I wanted to mention, Peter, that my son, Brent, sent you, because he does all that, the kids do all the StreamYard stuff, sent you the file of pictures of I had of me and AJ. And so
yes.
I'm hoping you can post
yes.
them.
And while the dialogue continues here, I will dive out and do my best. So, because you do have a wonderful group of photos that you've sent. For starters, I know you were devastated by this, and you knew him well and for a long time. How did you first meet AJ?
Oh gosh, it was there's a picture of us together at the first UFO Congress in Laughlin.
I'm gonna Yvonne, I'm gonna just ask you to hold that for a second, because we have our friend Bob Salas.
Bob, okay.
Robert Salas served, and you know what? Chanel, would you bring Bob on now?
The first UFO Congress in Laughlin.
I'm gonna Yvonne, I'm gonna just ask you to hold that for a second, because we have our friend Bob Salas.
Bob, okay.
Robert Salas served, and you know what?
Hi, Don.
I do want to announce him anyway. I just didn't want to leave him out there in the green room another moment. Although you're wearing a green shirt, so it works out all right, really. Robert Salas served 7 years of active duty before separating from the United States Air Force in 1971. While on active duty, he worked as a weapons controller, flight target drones, commanded intercontinental ballistic missiles as a launch officer. He was an Air Force missile propulsion engineer on the Titan III program, and from 71 to 73, worked as a safety and reliability engineer at Martin Marietta Aerospace in Rockwell International on space shuttle design proposals. From 1974 until his retirement in 1995, he was employed by the Federal Aviation Administration as an aircraft structures certification engineer. And from 91 to 93, he served as an FAA attaché to the U.S. Embassy in Indonesia, advising the government on aircraft certification. In 1998, Bob earned a Master's of Education from the University of Washington, then was employed as a high school mathematics teacher until 2016. Robert is co-author, along with James Klotz, of Faded Giant, and author of Unidentified, the UFO Phenomenon. In September of 2010, he co-sponsored a press conference at Washington's National Press Club, where he and 6 other ex-military witnesses testified to the reality of UFO incidents at nuclear weapons bases, and mesmerizing that day was. In May of 2013, he participated in the Citizens' Hearing on Disclosure, also held at the National Press Club and brilliantly organized by another one of this evening's guests, hopefully Steve Bassett. Robert began speaking out publicly on these incidents in 1996, and since has done so at UFO conferences, in print media, radio and podcast, television, at venues in the U.S., as well as international conferences in Norway, France, United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany, Italy, Bulgaria, South Africa, Costa Rica, Peru, Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. And Bob, sorry to say this, but your time is up, because the introduction took longer than I thought. Radio and podcast, television, at venue. Welcome, Bob. Welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth. I don't
Peru,
think
Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil, and Bob.
oh, we're getting a delay, and I see okay, and add to stream, and I am also adding to the stream Mr. Stephen Bassett, and I'm going to do a quick introduction to him, and then we are just going to get on with things. Stephen G. Bassett is the first extraterrestrial life disclosure lobbyist in the U.S. He is also executive director of Paradigm Research Group, founded in 1996 to end a government-imposed embargo on the truth behind extraterrestrial-related phenomena. I'm going to keep this very abbreviated because Steve also has a long and distinguished introduction, and we want some time to actually discuss AJ. Steve and Bob and Yvonne, again, and Carlo, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth.
Nice to be with you all.
Thank you, Peter. It's good to see everybody. I miss everybody.
Yeah, Yvonne, I was asking you if you remembered or could share with us your first meeting with AJ.
Yes, and I believe it was, and as I mentioned before, there's a picture of us that we took together at the UFO Congress when I first met AJ. He was a speaker there. I believe it was 1996. And we got to talking, and towards the end of the conference, he invited me to come out to Brazil and speak at his next conference. And we have another picture there of the Brasilia International Conference. That was my first trip to Brazil in 1997, and it was wonderful. I mean, there's a picture of Bud is in the picture, and David Jacobs, of course, AJ and myself.
Well, hold off on describing the pictures for the moment because I'm going to try to actually bring them on. But in the meantime, what was your impression of him when you first met him?
AJ, I will never forget. I was always made me laugh. I mean, whenever we got together, he was so sweet and kind, and of course, very knowledgeable. And when I first saw him lecturing, I was just amazed at the information he had of all the UFO cases in Brazil. And I was, that was in 1996, so I was pretty much a rookie back then. And but we would all gather, as you guys know, we gather at the conferences and have dinner and drinks afterwards. And that's when I really got to know him. That's when you network with everybody. And I'll tell you, it's just been all the years I knew him. I just remember him just joking around, making everybody laugh. And I believe the last time I was there in Brazil was in 2014. He helped me, assisted me in translating my book Chosen to Portuguese. So that was exciting. And I'm still trying to, probably like all of us, trying to deal with the emotions of actually losing him. I mean, he was so full of life, Peter, that you never think about your dear friends passing on. I mean, it's just, I'm still trying to process everything. This was the day before my Zero annual holiday party, and it just threw me for a loop. So I'm sure everyone feels like this. Those of us who knew him for many, many years.
Yeah. It is true. Bob, will you tell us about
holiday party?
Bob, would you tell us about your impressions and dealings with AJ? Can you hear me, Bob?
He dropped out again.
Yeah. Okay.
He's back.
Bob,
Your impressions and dealings with AJ?
Oh, well, I can't remember when I first met AJ, but I've known him for.
Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
It's some kind of echo, Bob.
Bob?
Yeah.
Chanel, can you try to handle this?
Impressions and dealings with AJ?
Can you hear me? Oh, well, I can't remember when I first met
Yes,
AJ, but I've known him.
Oh gosh.
Can you hear me okay?
We are having some kind of technical problem here. And Chanel, if you can jump in, we're having echo here. And anyway, let's
something
try
AJ
it.
would do to us. Right. Yeah.
Let's try it once more. Bob, your impressions of AJ when you met?
Wait,
let's
something
try
AJ
it.
would do to us.
Steve, let me go to you for the moment and see. Are you hearing me fine?
I hear you fine.
When did you first meet AJ Gevaerd?
It's been a long time. I can't remember the year. I know it goes way back. I think he was at one of the X conferences. I did two speaking runs down in Portugal. Might have been 3. One of them was a 6-city tour with Nick Pope, which is, hey, you want to have some fun, do a 6-city tour with Nick Pope. And he organized everything, paid us well. We had dinner at friends. His sons joined him. It was just a wonder. He just devoted a great deal of time and energy to make Nick and I feel fantastic. Look, the point that needs to be made is AJ probably is the most industrious person I have met in this field. Not that other people aren't, but boy, it's tough to top him. The degree of work, the amount of work that he has done in his life on this is amazing. The dedication, the intensity, far more intense than I, and relentless. He had a passion. Now, he was research, not so much politics, but he started to get into that. So pleased. Yes, I'm so pleased that he did see the people testify to the Brazilian Senate. He lived to see that. He also lived to see substantial developments in the United States, including the recent language, which will soon be passed by the president, which is quite extraordinary. So he saw, he really saw he had a glimpse, I think, of the end of the truth embargo, and that's something, right? But boy, then the other point I want to make is life is difficult, whatever you do, pretty much. There are some people that slide through, but overall, it's tough. And being a researcher in the ET field does not make it easier. It makes it even harder. It is a very difficult road to take. And he took it longer than I. I'm 26 years in. I know he's in longer than that, probably more like 30, 35. So he had plenty of tough times in his life. And all of this just made it much harder. And of course, the thing that just broke him was the death of his daughter, who he adored. He has two sons, he loves them, but the daughter was a light of his life. Mm-hmm. She worked with him. She handles affairs. She was wonderful. And I did meet her. Mm-hmm. And when I went to see him in that last speaking tour, this was after her death, he never recovered from that, but he continued to push forward, but he was tormented inside. And I know that he was seeking, how would you say, relief from that. Again, it just, every time one of my colleagues dies, particularly young, I'm reminded that this truth embargo is 75 years on. And an awful lot of good people have been running it to ground. And the government just keeps hanging on, hoping we'll just all die and leave it alone. Well, we're not going to do that, and we're going to get this done. And AJ is going to be remembered. I certainly will do my best to do that, make that happen.
Well said, my friend. I have loaded some of the pictures that Yvonne sent me, not all of them, unfortunately, but they're quite wonderful. And I'm going to jump into them right now, Yvonne.
Roger Lear.
Roger, another one.
And Philip.
Hackdan Octagon, I think, yes?
Yes.
Turkey.
And I think this had to be the Congress, one of the Congress at the dinner.
It's a good photo.
Yeah, this was either 2003 or 2009. I don't quite recall.
That was my fault because I was listening to the show on another page.
Oh.
Double
Wendell
hit.
Stevens.
Yeah, Wendell Stevens.
And that is Danny when she was young, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Danny.
Yes.
Yeah, she came to the Congress with AJ one of the years. Yeah, and they had a table out in the vendor area. And this would have been one of the EB Awards nights.
I sent you some different pictures.
These are my pictures.
Oh, don't mind me. Yeah. Yes, Robert, of course. Sorry about that. Well, jump in, please. There she is.
Paul David, and where?
Yeah, so this was 2009, as you can see from the sign there.
And it's a favorite one of mine.
Oh, there's Bob.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, just fine.
I can't hear you.
Oh.
Ouch.
You can't hear us?
I was in that van at some point.
Robert, you can or can't hear us?
You were driving, Yvonne, right?
As always.
Oh.
I think there's a message about Chanel wanting Bob to call her. Did you see that, Bob?
I'm gonna. Yeah, Robert, if you can turn up your volume.
Speaker volume, probably.
Okay. Okay.
Any more photos? Any more of those?
Yes.
Those are great.
Yes, and I'm going to. I know I just downloaded some.
Okay, I am speaking, but I can't hear you guys.
Oh.
Okay, you can't hear us. Oh boy. Chanel, once again, if it is possible for you to jump in on that.
Bob needs to turn on his chat too, I think.
Yeah. Well, this is a photo of Carlos, and Carlo, can you jump in on this?
Yeah, this is how I remember AJ. Always smiling, always happy. He loved people. He loved, as Yvonne said, jokes and having fun. I'm not sure who the woman on the left is, but the woman on the right is my wife. She came to the conference one year and met AJ. And we just had a great time talking to him and having dinner with him.
And haha.
One of the dinners. There's Bob back there.
God, I keep losing him.
I hope you get my pictures up, Peter.
Yeah,
All right, that's the Senate That's when they're testifying to the Brazilian Senate. That hasn't happened here. He made happen there what we have not been able to do here yet.
Wow.
And this is another shot from the UFO Congress. I believe that's Daniel Munoz, who was one of Jaime Maussan's people. They're doing an interview with AJ.
Okay. Chanel, is it possible to get Bob in here? He keeps dropping out. Anyway, let me jump in with some of my memories in that I had never been to Brazil. And one of the first things in the morning was appreciating that people have very different things for breakfast than you do, and often a lot more healthy than things that you are eating. The conference, I thought, was brilliantly presented. Carlo, of course, you'd appreciate it. I mean, everything just ran like clockwork. You know what it's like being behind the screen there. Shot of me.
Curitiba, maybe.
Sunset from the roof of my hotel. And we have here a dear Norwegian colleague along with Bob. And once again, and Kat Thorvaldsen, a Norwegian abductee experiencer, and Michael Salas, also from the US. And then just your conference pictures that we all have of you with everybody that wants to take a picture with you, which is really part of the fun of these events. But for me, one of the things that was life-changing, I will say it, is on the Friday morning, AJ came up to me and Richard Dolan. I think he also spoke to Bob Salas and basically said, all the talks are in Portuguese today. There's no simultaneous translation. Today's a good day for you to go see the falls. I thought, oh, the falls. I've been to falls. I have one fairly close to here. I'm a New Yorker. I know Niagara Falls. All right, I'll humor you.
Iguazu is way bigger than Niagara. You shouldn't even mention the two in the same sentence.
The thing is, falls are called falls like deer are called deer. It's single or plural. And the falls is dozens of Niagara Falls, one after another. And it's one of the most beautiful, unique locations I have ever been to in my entire life. And we are going to quickly share some highlights. You all went as well. This is when you first get your first shot of it. It's like, wow, that is impressive. But then it just keeps opening up the further you walk. And from every angle, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I found it life-changing. By the time I got to the far end, where you can really cozy up to the falls, I was giddy as a kid and soaking wet, of course. But as we know, it dries very quickly there. Bob,
yes,
you seem to be back. It's wonderful.
I'm back. Yes. Hooray.
Welcome.
I just want to make a couple of points, Peter, before
Please.
I get cut off again. One is that AJ in 2005 met with the Brazilian military.
Yeah.
And for the first time in history, they received the researchers in Brazil, the military. And they, I just want to read you a quote from the general of the Brazilian Air Force. He said, we want to have all info on the subject that is withheld from us for decades, fully released to public through the UFO community. And he did this through AJ's group. So I just want to acknowledge that he was one of the first of any country really to get an agreement with their Air Force on the release of UFO information. And that was 2005. Can you hear me okay?
Just fine.
Oh, okay. All right. One more point that I wanted to make was,
please.
with all due respect, he surprised me one time when he sent me information about an article that was written in Playboy magazine on my incident that he had published in Brazil. He sent me the Playboy cover and everything, and the magazine. So that was quite a surprise. I never told my wife that, so it's
no. She'll never hear it.
All right.
Of course, there's no chance that she'll be hearing or watching this show. You've got a problem, Bob, and you've got to live with it. When you and I were in Brazil together, did you, again, it has nothing to do with UFOs. It has everything to do with AJ, and that we would have never visited this extraordinary location without his invitation to come. But were you as kind of, I'll say it, swept away by the falls as I was? It was just...
Well, I had seen the falls before, actually.
Oh.
When I was in Argentina, I went to see the falls. But absolutely, the first time you see that, it's just absolutely amazing. I was pretty close to the what they call the Devil's Throat, Devil's Throat of the falls.
Yipes!
And that's where all the rivers, I think there are 3 or 4 rivers that are emptying into this area, and it looks like, well, it looks like a black hole, to be honest. And all the water is just going down in there, and it's just black. It's just a big hole. Yeah, it's an amazing sight.
Amazing. At this point, what do you see as AJ's legacy, if there is such a thing in the international UFO community?
Well, I think you mentioned that he helped organize this first presentation in front of a Senate of a country in Brasilia, this year, that I was invited to attend and present, and so that's a major accomplishment, and it's an example for the rest of the world to start talking about this in a serious manner in front of their governments. Like I mentioned, in 2005, he was one of the first to get an agreement with the military, the Air Force in Brazil, on sharing information. And so, what can we say? He was a pioneer. He was a terrific pioneer in this field. And, we got to admire him for that.
Amen.
Can I follow up on that, Peter?
Say again?
Can I follow up on that?
Yes, I'd like you to. Yvonne, I just wanted to say I am downloading those images right now. So perfect, Steve. Jump in.
I'm generally aware of all of the efforts that have been made at different countries to sort of get at this issue in a more formal way. And there have been some in the UK, of course, Canada, India. But I'm confident in saying that no country or no group within a country has had more success in what we'll call the engagement, the formal engagement of government and military than in Brazil. We're just getting to where, again, AJ was a couple years ago, many years ago. It's a big country. It's not huge, but it's substantial. An important country. He also had the advantage of Curitiba is a pretty sizable city, and he really had a substantial support network of people within Curitiba to help him. So it wasn't just AJ; it was AJ and a whole lot of helpers, not only his family but others. And there's some of that here in the U.S., but it's not too easy to put together. But he had that; they all worked together. So he was showing the way year after year. You know, if you can make the effort, you might be able to connect with your military. You might be able to connect with the politicians. And the U.S. is not Brazil. The U.S. is the leader of the truth embargo. It is the most committed to the truth embargo. And I get that. But that he was essentially a leader in that regard. And that may be his legacy. He was not just a researcher. He was an activist. He was a lecturer. He was an author. He was everything. But he was ultimately I think an activist, and he did things in Brazil no one else had done.
Yeah. Well said. Yvonne, in your discussions with AJ, and again, you had a very unique relationship with him. I hadn't realized how far back it went when you first connected with him. Obviously, the abduction phenomena, as we know, is a worldwide phenomenon. What were you able to learn about abductions in Brazil through your friendship and professional relationship with AJ that maybe you might not have had it not been for him?
Well, I just know that, like many other countries, Brazil wasn't as open to the abduction phenomenon and discussing it and so forth back then. I mean, like I said, my first trip to the Brasilia conference, the international conference, was in 1997. But of course, he talked all the time about the Virginia case. And he and Roger, when Roger started going, and I can't remember what year Roger actually started going to Brazil and working with AJ, but I had wanted to learn more about that case. And Roger would fill me in. I mean, I was given a book about the case when I was there, and it was in Portuguese. So, and I never had a chance to have it translated. So I really wanted to get into the details of it, but I know that it was a very important case. It was, I think it was one of the firemen who actually held or touched the beam. He became very ill. I don't remember if he actually passed away, but that was an incredible case, and I really wanted to delve more into it with AJ and the other researchers. But I would always have to have a translator. I mean, the last time I spoke there, I believe it was in 2014, and we had all of you who went there, you got the translators. So, but these are, that's one of the very important cases that we need to still discuss and bring forward. And, but, I feel the way I did when Graham Birdsall, most of you probably knew him, when he became very ill and he was in the hospital, and AJ was the one that reached out to me and said, oh my God, you're not going to believe what's happening. And because I had been invited when I was in Brasilia, I was invited by Graham to come out to Leeds and lecture at that time. And Jaime lectured at the same conference. I can't remember what year that was, but it was in the it was in the 90s. But so it broke my heart about Graham. And then we lose John Mack. I forget the year, 2012?
2004.
Oh, 2004. I mean, I remember my email. I was working at the Magic Castle at the time, and my email blew up. People contacted me about death, and I think I'm feeling that same emotion of we've lost AJ much too soon. I know he had so much more to do that he wanted to do. And I remember who mentioned about, was it Daniela, his daughter, when she was killed in the accident?
Yeah.
One of his friends reached out to me. I can't remember which one, but told me about what happened. And then, of course, I reached out to AJ. I mean, I can't, losing a child, I mean, I hope I never experience that, but I could understand. I think it was Steve that said, you know, he never got over it. Of course, you don't get over losing a child. And she was at the conference, and I believe it was the last one when I was there. I have a picture with both of them. And then after that, you know, then I find out that she died. I mean, life is so short and precious, you guys. You know, it just, and I just turned 70 in September. And ever since I turned 70, I feel my mortality even more, you know, 40,
Sure.
50, 60. I didn't, you know, age to me is a number. I never freaked out about turning 50 or 60, but for some reason, turning 70, it's just bringing it all home now, you know. And then when you lose friends like this, so it's just like, you know, guys, we have to appreciate each other while we're all here. And I miss seeing everybody. COVID really put a damper on our conferences and getting together in person. I mean, at least we got to do something like this, you know, StreamYard, Zoom, but it's not the same as sitting at the bar together and having a drink.
No, it's not. And Yvonne, you speak for all of us. There's sort of a fractured sense of time. And as I was talking at the beginning in the first hour, just as a point of reference, AJ was alive 3 days ago. This just happened. And, you know, as is the case, and we've all been to, you know, wakes, celebrations of life. I think the term sometimes is used a little too early because some of us are not quite ready to celebrate. But the things that are important, you know, we're talking about now. It's about contributing something, leaving the world hopefully a little bit better, or in our cases, hopefully perhaps a little better informed than they might have been without us, to fight the good fight, and never, ever to confuse having a great time with people you care about with being, you know, self-involved. Life should be as enjoyable as it can be. It should be something we celebrate. And as comrades fall to the side, as we all will, I understand, at one point or another, I think the fears and some of the regrets that people have are not what they, you know, the things that they didn't try, the things that they backed away from, the things that they might have experienced that they didn't. And Lord knows all of us are in, you know, up to our eyeballs in what we do. We have the courage to care about each other. And when you lose people, it hurts. When you lose a cat and you love cats, it hurts. And
we're all family. We're all family, Peter. I mean, in this community, my friends are all in this community. And if I go have dinner with other people that are not within the community, it's like, I don't do well with small talk, you know. But when we all get together, it's like we're talking and time goes by. And how many times have we gotten together at these conferences and we go back up to our room, it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, you know. We have to get up and, you know, do a lecture the next day, or, you know, go and see our colleagues lecturing, or be at our book table early in the morning, or me hosting the experiencer sessions. So, you know, I just remember that at time. I mean, the hours went by so fast with all of us talking. And Steve, you were absolutely right. Is, you know, life is very difficult. I mean, I've had some difficult times in my life, and here we've chosen this field that is certainly not easy. You know, it's not easy in relationships and marriages. I mean, I know that, personally, and so did Bud, and so did John Mack, and yet, we're still here, and we still have a lot of work to do. But all of you guys, I admire, and I'm just so happy. I'm celebrating 31 years in this field this year. Unbelievable,
One of the great mantras of the 60s from Richard Albert, who is a professor at Harvard, who went on to kind of transform himself into Baba Ram Dass, is be here now. And it still applies. Yeah. The only thing that we really have is the present. Use it as well as we can. Have a good time. Work hard. Get into arguments with people you disagree with, and fight the good fight. Again, like Graham Birdsall, A.J. Gevaerd was like a human tornado. He was a one-man creation machine. Conferences, articles, research, investigation, putting on a conference. Most of us have had parts in conference organization at one point or another, or done it. And, Steve, what you've taken on in organizing the events you have, Bob, same thing. Carlo, being behind that curtain and making sure everything goes right, and the feeling of satisfaction when it does, that we are all in this together. And I do have, I think, the best of the images that you sent me loaded on. Yvonne, let's take a quick trip through them.
Okay, that was
you two were teenagers there.
That was at the Congress when we first met. We clicked, there he is again. Who said he was always smiling or always laughing, making other people laugh? I cherished this photo.
Yeah, it's a beauty. And this one, holy moly.
And here we are. This was at San Marino, Italy, at the state dinner. And I don't remember who took the photo, but, he was always, again, he was the clown. I mean, every time, look at my face. I was just so happy, and it just kept me laughing, and everybody else. So he was just like that with everyone. Now here he spoke at one of our CIRO meetings, and we were all, after the CIRO meeting, a few days later, we were all going to the Congress in Laughlin. Mm-hmm. So here he is. He was doing something on the computer, but he spoke for my group. This is my CIRO group, and he spoke for my group, which was wonderful. So we appreciated it. So there's Danielle. Oh my God, she was so beautiful, and it just, life is precious. She was so young, but now they're together. Debbie, here's another one. Debbie Edwards for my group contracted cancer and died a few years ago. Mm-hmm. It was good to see these two together. This was at a talk that AJ gave in Thousand Oaks at Linda Chambers' home. It was a good friend of Roger Lear, another one who we lost too soon.
Yeah.
So we tried to duplicate the picture that we took at the Congress when we were very young, to this picture. And there he is talking.
Addressing the crowd?
There he is, yeah. Yeah. This is back at the CIRO meeting. He was, what he did was, I want to practice on CIRO, and go over my lecture before we go to the Congress. So everybody appreciated it. And there's the group. There's the whole group there. There's AJ. And there's Roger. Oh gosh.
On the far left, yep.
Far left, yeah.
Another real champion of the truth. We have about 5 minutes. I want to give each of you a minute to just kind of sum up your thoughts here. Don, can I start with you? Don?
Well, I just wanted to, because he's here.
Don, you're breaking up.
this evening, but thank Robert once again.
Hold, you're breaking up, Don.
For
I think we're having the same echo problem again. Chanel, if you can.
The cause
Nothing
he
like
did this last festival in Roswell.
Talking in an echo chamber.
Because he's becoming like me.
Okay. Chanel says it's Don's connection.
Breaking up. Oh.
Carlo, let me jump to you and we'll come back to Don.
Sure. I just want to circle back to what Stephen was talking about. Sitting behind the stage, watching every presentation that AJ ever did at the UFO Congress, it was really remarkable to watch his development. And as Stephen said, getting the government, the interviews, and presenting them. And I'm looking at this saying, wow, that's incredible. Why aren't we seeing that from other people? You know, getting the generals and the villagers interviews, getting that documented. So I really appreciate how AJ did that, but it was always a pleasure to work with him, just as it was a pleasure to work with almost all of you. And I think
almost all of us. I'm going to take that personally, so nobody else.
I'm not sure I worked with Robert, but just one real quick story. All of you have put on presentations at conferences, and you all know about technical glitches and things that happen behind the scenes. And one conference, AJ and Haktan were sitting in the vendor room trying to put together a presentation, and they were trying to import some video from a camcorder that AJ had, but neither of them brought the right cable.
Excellent.
So somebody came and said, Carlo, can you help these guys? So I went up to my room and I grabbed my bag full of adapters and cables and brought it down, and we finally found the right one so that they could get this video onto the presentation so everybody could see it. And I'd also like to say thank you to AJ for turning me on to Zingu beer, which is a Brazilian black beer. And we had that the first time I ever met him. So if I had one now, I'd drink to him.
Yeah.
I tried it in Brazil too and loved it. Steve, closing remarks, and we're coming into our last minute.
Okay, look on my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org, under projects, more, Maine and more. I have a section called In Memoriam. And for the last, I don't know how many years now, I have been slowly filling that section up with those within our community who have passed. And there's a photo and there's a link to a decent bio in every case. The page just getting more and more all the time. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because, to me, this is another way of showing that there was a community of people, thoughtful, intelligent people, working on this over a long period of time. You start hearing recently more talk about, if just the ufology people would go away, if they would just give up, disappear, we could really make progress because they're the ones that are holding it back. Well, I'm not buying that. Never have, never will. We wouldn't be here at all if it wasn't for them. And so that In Memoriam page, if you've never been there, I invite you to go there. And if anybody has a suggestion of someone that needs to be on that page, I will certainly do that.
Thank you. Don and Bob, I'm going to have to call it. And we are out of time. It has been very special being with you guys. This is Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA Digital Broadcasting with Peter Robbins. My guests tonight have been Thiago Ticcatti, Don Schmitt, Steve Bassett, Robert Salas, Kathleen Marden, Yvonne Smith, and Carlo Patrick. See you next week. Stay well, stand up for what you believe in, and whenever possible, be kind to each other.